Okay, starting chapter 3 in Mesilas Yesharim. This is Beber Chelke Zehirus, right? This is an explanation of the divisions of Zehirus, right? Let me just remind ourselves, what's Zehirus? Zehirus is pretty pretty understandable thing, right? It's awareness, all right? It's awareness of its removal oneself from habit, right? And taking away habit and making sure that everything is done through thought, right? And through examination. Okay, so that was the general idea. He told us the general idea. Right? What else did he teach? Told us. He told us that that the general practice of the Yetzer Hara is to keep a person busy, right? So that to avoid contemplation, and then the last thing that I told you I'm going to owe you is that this idea we talked about how the Yetzer Hara is greater than the person, right? And really a person cannot overcome it without Hashem's help, right? So the question is, why is that? How does that work? Doesn't make sense. Why should the Yetzer Hara be stronger than the person? The whole purpose of the Yetzer Hara is to challenge a person, so it should be just strong enough to be able to overcome it, right? So you mentioned this idea, it comes from the Rishonim, that you have to daven. Hashem wants you to daven, right? That you said, right? Hashem wants you to daven for it, meaning that there should be davening in the spiritual realm as well. Not only daven for your physical needs, parnasa, children, health, right? You should daven for your spiritual needs also. That's one idea. Another idea is, my idea is that a lot of what we do really is power steering. Meaning the truth is, the small mitzvah that we do, right? Okay, we put on tefillin. Okay, what's the big deal? So we put on tefillin. It's not a big deal. But the way I like to think of it, of the world as a kind of an Ender's Game situation. Are you familiar with Ender's Game? Mm-hmm. Ender's Game is a science fiction book, which I think became a movie. I didn't see the movie, but I think if I remember correctly, the premise of the book is that you basically have these fighter pilots that are fighting. They're playing. They're little kids. They're training to be these fighter pilots, right? And the way they train them is that they play these virtual reality video games as if they're flying the real plane, and they're shooting against virtual opponents, right? And then they practice this way. What you discover later is that the virtual reality is really reality. It's just they're made to believe that it's only a game, but in reality it's a real thing, right? So in a sense, our world is maybe to some degree is like this. What we do here is maybe it feels to us like a game. We put on some tefillin, we daven a little bit, but in reality there's like serious consequences in the spiritual realm, so to speak, to every little action that we do, and it's much bigger than we are, right? But it's like power steering, right? That's power steering. When we turn the wheel, we think like we're turning the wheel, but really there's a whole mechanism that adds a lot of power to what we do. So on the side of Yetzer Tov, on the mitzvahs, is the same thing. On the side of Yetzer Hara also, meaning the Yetzer Hara really is stronger than we are, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us the power to overcome it. So then we get kind of the schar for overcoming a greater thing, right? And this perhaps also goes back to this famous Gemara that at the end of days Hashem is going to show everybody their Yetzer Hara, right? And for Rishonim, they were going to see it, and it's going to be like this little thing, and they're going to be embarrassed how they didn't overcome it. And for Tzaddikim, they're going to see this huge mountain, and they're going to be shocked that they overcame it, right? So again, Pashup Pshat, I think I always understood Pashup Pshat is that not that it's really so big, it's really small, but each step of the way, right? So really small. You conquer one level, you get a new level, right? Level 2 is Yetzer Hara. You conquer that level, you get level 3 Yetzer Hara. So tzaddikim who were able to conquer it at each and every level. So once they were shown the entire picture, so that was like, oh, that's really huge. The Rishonim, who never conquered the first level, so to them, they only saw this little thing that they never ended up conquering, right? But that's one pshat. But maybe another pshat is no, really, it really is that huge. It really is that huge, right? But tzaddikim were able to overcome it. Why? Because of Hashem helped them. They did whatever they could do, and Hashem then gave them the strength to overcome it. Right? Okay. Anyway, so that's one idea. But the Pachad Yitzchak says another idea, which I think is extremely beautiful. I'm glad I had to. I can't believe I forgot about it. I had to relook at it. And I don't think this is going to, Pachad Yitzchak, Rabbi Yitzchak's idea works with what Mesilas Yesharim is saying. He's really not going on Mesilas Yesharim, he's going on the Chazal, on the Gemara's statement of that the Yetzer Hara of a person renews itself every day, and if not for HaKadosh Baruch Hu's help, he would, a person would lose, right? So he says, again, he asks this question, how could it be? So he says, the key to that Chazal is in the words, what does it mean that Yetzer Hara renews itself every day? And he says that in reality, Yetzer Hara has no ability to renew itself. Yetzer Hara is by itself has nothing new of its own, right? And really, the whole concept of newness, right, novelty and newness comes from Ruchnius, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. Anything new is connected to Hashem. Things that are old and stale, that's destruction, right? That comes from the Yetzer Hara, right? So there is a certain domain, right? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world with a balance of challenge, the Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov, right? That was in balance. But then when person who in the Yetzer Tov world, so to speak, loses some of the novelty and the newness that he has in Avodas Hashem, and his Avodas Hashem becomes stale, then that, I don't know how to say it, energy, I don't know how to say energy, but that lack of realized potential is like the energy boost to the Yetzer Hara, right? So in other words, that concept, that Yetzer Hara is mischadesh itself. What do you mean it's mischadesh itself? It has no ability to mischadesh itself. No, when a person loses his vitality, that gives the Yetzer Hara the boost to overcome him, and then he can't overcome it, right? So in other words, the way to overcome Yetzer Hara, says the Pachad Yitzchak, is this whole idea of hischachus. This is a very human ability of being able to do the same thing with a new flavor, with a new freshness. That is that's a human thing. That's meaning, what do I mean a human thing? It's an intelligence thing. You're doing the same thing that you're doing every day, but you're doing it with an invigoration, right? That takes intelligence, a new perspective, a new flavor, right? It's an intelligent decision, right? So that is the way to overcome that Yetzer Hara. That ability of Yetzer Hara to overcome you only comes from the fact that a person loses his that special flavor. Again, I don't know if that fits with what Ramchal is saying. Ramchal seems to be saying, plain and pashut, like simple, that hey, Yetzer Hara is greater than you, and that's it. So to Ramchal, I understand more with that idea of what I said with power steering. But anyways, it's a beautiful idea from the Pachad Yitzchak. Anyways, okay, back to chapter 3. Right, back to chapter 3. So now again, we're talking about the subdivisions of this concept called Zehirus, of watchfulness, of which contemplation, right? Moving away from hergel, from habit. So somebody who wants to monitor himself. Lufakech means to look, to contemplate over himself. Somebody who wants to contemplate over himself. One second, I don't know why I'm not comfortable with those words. Give me 1 second. This didn't hit me before. Just give me 1 second. Right. So he doesn't say. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. It just hit me now. Right. He starts out with saying, "Okay, if you want to do this Zehirus," he doesn't need to say that. He just say, "Give me the divisions of Zehirus is Shtaim is 2, and continue what they are." Like if you turn to the next midah, which is Rizus, right. So the Ramchal's map is very standard. The first chapter is the explanation of the midah. It's called Bebeir midah, whatever the midah is. The next chapter is the subdivisions of that midah. The next chapter is going to be how to acquire that midah, and the next chapter is going to be what are the possible holdbacks to acquiring that midah and how to overcome them. Okay, those are like 4 chapters per midah, standard map, right? So when you get to Zrizus, he just starts out, there are 2 divisions of Zrizus, and continues, right? He doesn't start out saying, if you want to be Mekayim the mitzvah of Zrizus, these are the 2 things, right? So, but over here, he's, for some reason, right, he introduces this, so if you want to monitor yourself, okay, of course you want. I mean, we're reading this book. We want, right? I mean, but so I'm not sure why he specifically introduces this as a want. I'm not sure. There's something there. I just don't see it. Okay. Anyways, let's continue. He needs 2 hashkofes, two contemplations or 2 assessments, right? Ha'achas, the first one is first he has to contemplate is what is the true good that a person has to choose for himself. Okay? And what is the true evil that he has to escape from. And the second thing that he has to think about, on the actions that he does, he should see whether they fit with the good or with the bad. Right? So, okay, so very simple, right? So basically, you need to do 2 things. A, you need to have a rubric, right? Again, this is a teaching term. You need to have a rubric, right, that says this is the map of good and bad, and then you have to apply that rubric, or the other way around. You have to filter out your actions based on the rubric that you created. Right? Makes sense? Logical, right? In a job, if you want to assess how somebody's doing a job, first you're going to create what are your requirements for that job, and then you're going to see, okay, is the person doing that job fit the requirements I set for that job, right? Very seemingly a simple framework. Just what is it there for us to think about? So clearly, where can people go wrong? First of all, people can go wrong with having the wrong rubric, right? I mean, a lot of people you find, they have the wrong map, right? They have the wrong map. They think this is good, right? So something is good, which is maybe not be good, and then they apply their action to that rubric, and that doesn't make sense. That's one. Another option is they may have the right rubric, right? But they may have the wrong assessment of what they're doing, right? A person has, okay, I know that, whatever, I don't know. Let's say again with kids, okay? I know that disciplining kids is good, right? And I think, I'm, occasionally screaming at them in this particular situation must be good because I'm doing that in order to discipline them, right? But that wasn't a good example. That's more still in the first situation. Okay, meaning let's say so. I think that okay. I realize that hitting a child is not good, right? But when I spoke harshly to him, I wasn't doing anything bad because I was just doing that. I was just disciplining him. But so over there, the assessment is not that I know that I shouldn't speak harshly to my son, and I know that I shouldn't make him feel bad. But what I thought I did at the time didn't seem a problem. I thought I did something okay, right? So I'm saying, so there's two potential issues, right? Very difficult to have the right rubric, right? And then even if you have the right rubric, it's also very difficult to self-assess, to make sure that. So truth is, I mean, I don't know how we manage really to do this properly. We are more likely, I mean, unless we are, these super intelligent human beings who know everything, right? We are more likely to have a messed up rubric, right? And we are more likely to have a messed up rubric. And even if we have somehow managed to get the right rubric, right? I mean, find all the time. So I don't know. Zehirus is the first step, right? We're in the very beginning of this journey of becoming a good Jew, and already I don't see how we get past step one. Okay, so let's keep going. Then you can and this filtering is done at the time of the action. B'shas ma'isa. At the time of the action, the person should not do any action until he weighs it out through this filter, through this rubric. Right? So one thing is you don't do anything until you contemplate it. Again, also very tiring. Again, going back to the idea of Hergel, our goal in everything that we do naturally is to create a system where we don't have to think about it. Right? Mm-hmm. My whole goal in life is to not think about it, right? If I want to create a system that I know, okay, on this day I do this, on this day I do this, and I just do it. And I don't have to sit there and do, should I do it? Just like this. I just want to, just get through it. Just get through it, right? He's saying, no, you gotta, everything you do, you have to run your thought process through it, okay? So that's a difficult thing. And then, on off action, right? Aftermarket, so to speak, of Zichron, he has to go through and reassess everything that he through his memory. And he has to weigh them out. Similarly, again, through this balance, through this weighing process. Lira is to see so if there's anything else that he does that is wrong, that he needs to not repeat. Right? Or if there's things that he's doing that is good, lahasmid boy, in order to continue and make it more common. Chazik boy, and strengthen in it. And he finds something that is not good. He has to contemplate. Then he has to contemplate and think, what can you do in order to get rid of this thing? Right, so that's why I think we mentioned this last time, that so it's not enough to just identify the Ra. It's also, you have to realize that once you're breaking the status quo, you have to think of extra strategies of how to go around it. Okay. So our sages taught this to us in Eruvin, right? This famous Gemara, that it would have been better for a person not to have been created, right? Mm-hmm. But b'achshav shenivra, again, we're not going to get into that concept, part of it, but b'achshav shenivra, but now that he is created, yifash fesh b'masav, he should analyze his actions. Ve'ikadamri, and some say yimashmesh b'masav, right? It's a very strange Gemara. Yimashmesh, yifash fesh. Seemingly, these are synonymous things. Examine or analyze, just one is using different words. So Ramchal is going to tell us why the Gemara is using different words. And Ramchal says, again, a beautiful thing, V'tira, you should see, Shnei ha-lashonos hem shtei azharos toivos umailos. You have to understand, these two different lashonos are really both helpful. They're not arguing on each other. They are complementary, and they're telling us two good, helpful strategies. Very much. Kihine ha-pishpush b'maasim. What is the examining your deeds? Who lachkar klal ha-maasim is to go over all of his actions. Ulisboinen boy, and to contemplate on it. Hanimtza bahem, whether it is found in them maasim asher lo yosu, any actions that I'm not supposed to be doing. Asher einam holchim al pi mitzvahs Hashem v'chukov, any actions that do not reflect the mitzvahs Hashem and His laws. right? Kikol asher yimtza me'ela yivar min ha'olam, anything that I find of these, right? If I see that I'm doing an avera, basically, yivar min ha'olam, I should destroy them from the world, right? So that's yifashpesh. Yifashpesh, I analyze my deeds and I try to see if there's anything wrong in what I do. Ach hamishmush, right? Mishmush means more like, right? Mashash means to feel something out. Ach hamishmush hi hachakira afilu ma'asim hatovim atzmam. The mishmush is referring to actually already good deeds, right? I already got rid of any deeds that are not good, but I'm looking at things that I'm doing that are good, v'lachkar, and to analyze v'lirois, and to see hayesh ben yonam eze pniya asher lo tova, whether within the good things that I have, whether there are any elements that are not good, any direction towards not good, or eze chelek rash yitzarech la'asir levaroi, any element of evil that needs to be destroyed. V'areze kimashmesh bebeged. And this is what's compared to a mashmer, somebody who feels with his hands a baguette, a piece of clothing, livchoin, to test, hatoiv, v'chazaku, if it's good and strong, or chalosh ubaloyu, whether it's weak and withered. Right? So therefore a person should end, first level of, Yifash Peish is talking about the first level of analysis, where a person is analyzing whether he has good actions or not so good actions, and get rid of the not so good actions. And then there's Yimash Peish, the second level of analysis, which already tests the good actions to see if there's any other impurities in it that have to be gotten rid of. Okay? Yeah, good. So far, so good. Klal hadavar. So the general principle is yiha odam me'ayin al masav kulam. A person should analyze, right, deeply analyze his ma'asim, all of them, umifakeach, and monitor al kol drachav, on all of his ways. Shelo la'aniach la'atzmai hergel ra umidara. She should not leave behind any evil habit or any evil midah, right? Kol shekain avera o pasha, certainly not a real avera o pasha. V'hin niroi tzorich ha'odam sheyeh medaktek v'shoikel drochav dvar yoim b'yoim. And he's giving you practical advice that I feel that a person should really analyze and weigh out his deeds every single day. K'soicherim agdoilim, like the big merchants, asher yifalsu tomit kol iskein l'mani lo yiskalkalu, because they are constantly auditing their books, so to speak, their business, so that they should not go astray. A person should really set up special times for this, that he should not do this like on occasions, on random occasions. This should be done on a very regular basis, because it is of great help. Right. So again, the Ramchal is saying that a person should have set aside hours for reassessing himself. Yeah. Okay. Right. So this is Cheshbon HaNefesh right there. This is so some Musar movements is called Cheshbon HaNefesh, and it comes from the next piece of the Ramchal. Are we doing that time? Okay, our sages, they taught us specifically the need for such a cheshbon, right? Right, so the pasuk says that the moishlim, who are the moishlim? Moishlim means rulers, right? Dictators, rulers of force. The moishlim say, Bo Cheshbon, let's go to the city of Cheshbon. Right? That's what the pasuk says in Parshas Chukas. Yes? Am I wrong? Chukas? I think it's Chukas. Right? In Parshas Chukas. Right? Al Ken Yom Ramoishlim Bo Cheshbon. Right? And this is by Sichon. Yeah. Okay. So, but the Gemara darshans this in a different. Al Kain Yomru HaMoishlim BeYitzram. There, so the Moishlim over here doesn't mean the rulers, but rulers of their own Yitzhahara. So Yomru HaMoishlim BeYitzram Bo Unechashev Cheshboinoi Shel Olam. Come, let us contemplate the cheshbon of the world. What is the cheshbon of the world? Hefsed mitzvah kineged schara. Hefsed mitzvah kineged schara, right? The loss of a mitzvah and its reward was schara aveira, and the benefit from the aveira kineged hefseda versus the loss of the aveira. Okay, so that's how the Gemara is darshaning this pasuk. Al ken yom moishlim bo cheshbon, right? Cheshbon, the moishlim beyitzrim. What advice are they giving us? They're telling us do a cheshbon, right? The moishlim beyitzrim are giving us an advice. The people who know their Yetzer Hara, they're giving us an advice. Bo cheshbon, go make a cheshbon. Go make a cheshbon. Okay, let's see a little more. V'zeki ha'etzer ha'mitzis hazois, because in reality, this good advice, this etzer ha'mitzis, this true strategy, lo yuchlu lo sasei, so v'lo liroi samita, no, it cannot be given or even seen its truthfulness, ela oism shekvar yotzu mitachas yad yitzrim u'mosh l'boy, only by those that already left their Yetzer Hara and they rule over it. So it says this advice cannot be given except by somebody who already rules over Yetzer Hara. By somebody, right? Again, we'll see why. I don't know why. Let's see. Because anybody who's still jailed, right, who's still tied up by the confines of his Yetzer Hara, ein of royos ha'emes hazois. His eyes are not able to see this truth. Ve'ein yochel hakira, and he's not able to recognize it. Ki ha'yetzer misame as ein of mamash, because the Yetzer Hara blinds his eyes really. Ve'hinehu kehoylech choshech is like somebody who walks at night. Sheyesh lefon of mechshoylos, he has stumbling blocks. Ve'ein ein of royos oisom, but his eyes cannot see them. V'hu ma shomru zechronim levracha, and this is what our sages also said. Toshas choshech v'yilayla, Hashem makes darkness and it becomes night. Zeha olam hazeh shedoim l'layla. It's referring to this world that is night, right? So this world, again, so this goes back, so I'm not sure exactly, we have to dig into this, right? Right, this world is darkness, right? Good, we understand it, right? That's what we started with. He's telling us we got to have a rubric, and then we got to have our actions to match up to the rubric. But the world is darkness, which means we are blind. You just told us we are blind, right? So we really don't have such a good way to accomplish this rubric. And we don't have such a good way as to even assess our own actions to match it up to the rubric, because the world is darkness. But yet you're telling me that, what are the Moishlim are telling us? Go cheshbon. I mean, and you're telling me that this idea of this cheshbon, only the real Moishlim, right? The people who only they can come up with such an advice. First of all, I mean, I don't know. I could have come up with such an advice, right? It doesn't sound so complicated, right? On the other hand, it doesn't. The advice doesn't sound so complicated. But on the other hand, I don't understand the advice, because what is it going to help me to do cheshbon if I'm in the darkness? My cheshbon is going to be wrong, right?
What if I don't even understand the rubric?
Right. So my cheshbon is going to be off, right? So there's nothing to talk about. So let's see a little more. V'hovein, and understand kama nifla hamaymer ha'amiti hazeh. How wonderful is this statement? Somebody who really goes deeper into understanding it. Kihine choshech halayla, because when it comes to the darkness of the night, shnei mine te'uyos efsher lo shigrim le'ein ha'adam. There are two types of mistakes that a person can be caused by his lack of sight. So one thing is that he just may not see the thing itself, right? It's going to be so dark that he doesn't see the danger that he's about to fall into, right? Or a person can mistake well, he gives an example that I see a pillar and I think it's a person standing there. In other words, so you could either not notice something at all, or you could notice it but think it's completely something else, right? V'odam kilu omad, or a person who is a pillar. Kein chomriyos v'gashmiyos olam hazeh. So to the physicality of this world, hinehu choshech halayla le'eina seichel. It's like darkness of the night to the eye of the mind. V'goyim lo shtei te'uyos, and a person can fall into two mistakes. Ha'achas eina maniach lo sheyiri hamichsholos shebedarchei ha'olam. He may not see at all the stumbling blocks that are in the way of the world. V'nimtzoyim hapesoyim holchim levetach. And so you'll find that hapesoyim, right, the fools are walking levetach, securely and safely, and they fall into destruction without even having time to have a fear beforehand, because they don't see it at all. The ways of the wicked is like darkness. They don't know what they're stumbling into. And it also says Orim Ra. The wicked, I think it means over here, Orim means the wicked saw evil. Hold on. No, right. So I'm sorry. Orim Ra. A clever person sees evil, v'nister, and he hides. Upesoim, but the fools ovru, they pass by v'ne'anosh, and they get punished. V'oimer, another pasuk, Ksil misaber ubayteach. Ksil does nevera, but he feels securely. He's secure in his mind. Kilibam bari lohem kuulam, because their heart is like a great hall. V'noiflim terem yedu ha'me'amichshal klal, and they fall into the trap without even knowing that they fell in, or that they were about to fall in. Okay, so that is the first toast. That's the first type of a mistake that a person can do, is totally not recognize the problem. The second mistake, vihi koshim in the Rishoina, and that mistake is even worse than the previous one. He shemata riyosam at shiroyim hara keiluhu mamash toiv. That people could look at evil and they can perceive it as really good, right? Meaning that they recognize something, they analyze it, and they think, there's a good thing. But toiv keilu ra, and something that's good, that is like ra. And this we see today's society. And that's an obvious for us. It's obvious, but we could extrapolate from there. If they make that mistake, we probably make very similar mistakes. All right. But in our society, right, if you are not quote unquote tolerant to certain individuals, you're an evil person, right? Because it's a good thing to be open-minded and tolerant and all that thing. And if you're not, well, you're completely off, right? And obviously our views are a little different, right? So, right, but we understand how somebody can quote unquote set up a rubric that is completely off the charts, right? So where he sees something and he touches it up as something that's good, where in reality it's evil, right? So when you do that, then you definitely will continue doing that thing. If you decided that something that's not good is really good, so you're gonna forge on, you're gonna keep going. So not only are they missing they're seeing the truth. Not only are they not seeing the evil that's right in front of their eyes, they'll find great proofs. And experiments that demonstrate, right? They'll find proofs and testimony to all of their misguided views. Right? And this is, by the way, this is called, right, in psychology, it's called the confirmation bias. Right, we always find things that we already hold off. We will find proof to those things. And this is the great evil that leads people to the ber shachas. And this is what the pasuk says: Hashmein lev ha'amazeh. the heart of the people became fat. Ve'oznov hachbeid, their ears are heavy. Ve'enav hashapen, mekol zeh mipnei hayosim tachas hachoshech. All that is because we are subjugated by night. Ukvushim heima tachas Mesilas Yesharim, and we are confined by the rulership of our Yetzer Hara. Okay, so again, this is the problems that we understood. That in the darkness, it's very difficult to have a clear assessment of reality. Mm-hmm. Okay, but what about, again, but how do you get out of this? And now let's see. Now those people that already were able to leave these biases and these problems, and this what's this confinement? They see the truth in its full reality. And therefore they are able to really advise people. This is, what is this similar to? Legan hamavucha hu hagan hanatur litzchak. Right? So this is talking about one of those gardens. What is that garden called? We have a corn maze, but right? But okay, so a maze garden, right? Hayadua Eitz Lahasarim, which is known by princes. Shanitiyos oisuyois ksolim, right? That the plantings are made in like walls. Ubeinehem shvilim rabim nevoichem emerovim, and throughout those walls, through the garden, there are many paths. Kulam doim zelazeh, they're all similar to one another. But tachlis bom, and the goal is lagia el aksadra achas shebemtzoam, right? To get to the middle where there is some kind of a veranda or whatever, some kind of right. Now there are certain paths that will lead you directly to that aksadra. And the other ones will make a person go in circles. Somebody who's inside the maze, he has no idea whether he's taking a path that is the right path or has some kind of a diversion path. They all look alike. They're all similar from the inside. There's no difference between them. Somebody who sees them from the inside, unless he already knows, has been through this path many times. So he has, there's a leaf here, there's a leaf there that recognizes which path is what. Because he already went through the maze and he already reached the aksadra. However, the guy who stands on top of the veranda, right? Let me translate aksadra in a more simple English. Pavilion. Okay, I have a pavilion. But same idea, right? So for somebody who's standing on a higher level from the middle of the maze, he sees the entire layout of the garden. So he knows which path is the real path and which one is the fake. So he can guide people as go take this path, right? Don't take that path. Right? So he's basically saying that the only person to really be qualified to direct people through the battle of the Yetzer Hara is the person who already won the battle. So that's the person who's truly qualified to advise how to get out, right? Just like a person who's standing in the pavilion is able to give direction, so too a person who left the maze of the Yetzer Hara is able to give direction. So somebody who wants to believe that person, he will get to his destination. But if a person says, no, I don't believe you, and he'll just follow his own path, he certainly will get lost and he will not reach the destination. So similarly is this thing. Somebody who has not yet subjugated his Yetzer Hara, he's like inside, somebody who's inside the maze. He has no way of telling the different paths. Ach hamoishlim beyitzram. However, those that already dominated their Yetzer Hara, shikvar higiyu el aksadra, because they already reached the pavilion. Shikvar yotzu min hashvilim, they already left the various paths. V'rou kol hadrachim and leineihem bebeir, and they see the entire layout, right, all of the different paths with clarity. Heim yicholim leyoyis lemishiyirtz lishmoy. So they are able to advise anybody who wants to hear. V'alein tzichum laham, and we have to believe them. Va'amnam, okay, so this is a very long, right, long piece. Va'amnam mahi ha'etz shehem noisnin lonu. So what is the advice that they are giving us? What is, right, so first you get a long introduction to tell us that the world is a dark place and you're likely to make a mistake. And the only person who can give you good advice is the person who left that place. Mm-hmm. And so who are the people that left the place? Assuming that these are the chachamim of the Gemara, right? Assuming the chachamim there are above their Yetzer Hara, and therefore they're able to give us advice. So now we can trust them. Okay, now we trust them. What advice are they giving us? Bo cheshbon, bo nechashav cheshbon eshalayim. Go and contemplate the accounting of the world. Kikvar heim nisu, because they already tested. V'ro, and they saw. V'yodu, and they know. Because they know that this is the only way that a person has in order to reach this toiva shehu mevakesh, and no other way. Right? So after all this, he's not really answering the question why. To me, it seems he's not really answering the question of why this is the way. He's just telling you got to believe it, right? He's stressing the idea of faith. He's telling you, if the rabbis who are above their Yetzer Hara are telling you to do this, that this is the only way. But why is it the only way? Again, he's not really explaining it directly. He's explaining us through a mashal, because just like a person who's sitting in the pavilion and he knows the only way to the pavilion, if you don't listen to him, there is no way you're going to get the pavilion, because you're basically now that you're not listening to him, you are taking the wrong path, right? He's telling you take path A. He said, you're fooling me. I'm going to take path B. Well, path B is for sure the wrong path, right? So similarly over here, since the Chachamim are telling you, hey, bo cheshbon, go do a cheshbon, right? Bo cheshbon, and you're saying, all right, whatever, I'll find my own path to Zehirus or whatever, right? To the right path. No, you're guaranteed to be wrong. V'lo zulazeh, there is no other path. It's a huge chiddush. I mean, there's no other path. Mm-hmm. But that's what he's saying. He's saying there is no other path unless you are bo cheshbon, or unless you're doing a cheshbon. So, but what I don't understand is, so how is he getting away? You just set us up so beautifully in understanding why we are not capable of the cheshbon, and then you're telling me that the cheshbon is precisely the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. I'm sorry. So that part I'm not clear about. So klolei shel davar, let's just finish up over here. And klolei shel davar, so the general principle is tzarech ha'odam liyos mizboinen besichloi tomid, that a person has to be constantly contemplating with his seichel, b'chol zman, in every moment, and then additionally ubizman kavu aloi behisboidedoi, and then additionally in a specific time, that is when he is alone, bizboidedus, right? By Hasidim, this is a big word, bizboidedus, being alone and contemplating. But over here, Ramchal is saying bizboidedus, you just take certain amount daily to do this cheshbono shloilam. Mahu haderech hamiti, what is the true path? Lefi choik haTorah, according to the laws of the Torah, she'odam tzarech leilach boy, that a person has to walk on. And then afterwards, he needs to contemplate over his actions. If they follow the Torah path or not the Torah path. Because this will be certainly, he says, easy for him to purify from all evil and to straighten his his ways. Right? If you weigh out the ways of your feet, all your paths will straighten out. And it says, let us search our ways and analyze them in Neshuva ad Hashem, and we will return to Hashem. Okay, that's it. So I'm not sure how to really understand this. The only thing that I could understand it is that this goes back to the siyata d'shmaya bit. That if a person does this cheshbon hanefesh on a regular basis, then we are to believe that this is as much as a person can do. You're in the darkness, and your cheshbon hanefesh could be wrong. Okay, you probably will make wrong choices along the way, but if this is done on a regular basis, then it seems that this is the way eventually to be to out of the maze. This is the way to get out. And he says this is the only way to be out. I mean, that's a very scary thing. This is, according to Ramchal, that's it. If you're not doing cheshbon and nefesh on a daily basis, goodbye. You're not in that. Okay, I don't know. You can't say that. I mean, I don't know if this v'lo zula zeh hit me as it did now. Meaning, those three words did not. I don't think they hit me as much as, I've learned this many times, but now it's seems like a stronger piece. Okay, fine. Let's